23. The Raven Flies. The fairground smelled of dust and roasting pork. Long tables sagged under the weight of pies, cornbread, smoked hams, and kettles of beans. The county election had drawn out every family for miles, and though most of the talking circled politics, the heart of it was a picnic. Kids ran underfoot, women gathered in knots comparing recipes and news, and the men, after speeches were done, drifted toward the horseshoe pits. Killian found himself drawn along. A man named Harris, broad, sunburnt, with a grin wide as a wagon, clapped him on the back. "You look like you could throw a ring, Burke." "What'd you say?" Killian gave him a sideways grin. "Been a while, but I reckon I'll give it a try." The men cleared space. Horseshoes clanged, dust puffed, and voices rose with good-natured ribbing. Killian stepped into the ring, squared his shoulders, and let the iron fly. It spun lazy through the air, struck the stake, and rang true. The crowd whooped. "Well, guess you brought more than a six-shooter to dodge," Harris said, chuckling. Another man handed Killian a mug of cider, and before long he was laughing with them, swapping stories of trail rides and busted wagons. He wasn't just the stranger anymore, or the man with shadows in his eyes. He belonged, at least for that afternoon. Mara watched from the edge, her arms folded, her smile small but sure. Lottie darted around with her friends, carrying plates of pie back and forth, giggling when they noticed boys watching them. The air carried the tang of wood smoke and sweetgrass, and the day stretched golden, easy, and bright. When evening came, lanterns flickered to life along the tables. Fiddles and banjos struck up a tune, couples turning slow circles in the dirt. Killian lingered near Mara, her hand brushing his when she passed him a cup. He didn't say much, he never did, but his eyes softened every time they met hers. The sky burned low with streaks of orange and violet when Killian finally hitched up the buckboard. Mara settled onto the bench, skirts drawn close, Lottie clambering into the back. One of her friends, a freckled girl with a ribbon in her hair, asked shyly if she might ride along, and Mara nodded. "Plenty of room," Killian said, giving the reins a flick. The team leaned into the traces, hooves crunching as they rolled away from the music and lantern light. The prairie stretched wide around them, quiet again. Crickets sang from the grass, and a cool wind carried the scent of sage. Behind, the laughter and fiddles softened until they were only memory. Lottie and her friend whispered in the back, their voices lilting with the high, secret tones of young girls on the verge of becoming women. Mara sat close beside Killian. For a long time, neither spoke. The wagon rocked steady beneath them, wheels humming over the packed earth. Then, almost without thinking, Mara leaned her head against his shoulder. Killian's hand tightened on the reins, but he didn't pull away. The rhythm of the horses, the hush of the night, the weight of her resting there, it felt like a benediction, a quiet sealing of everything he'd lost and everything he'd found again. He let out a long breath he hadn't known he was holding. The moon lifted pale over the horizon, silvering the grasses. The buckboard rolled on, carrying them home. And above, somewhere unseen, a raven cut through the night air, its wings black against the stars. The morning was still. I woke to the scent of coffee and the hush of wind across the plains. The house creaked like an old friend stretching its bones. I swung my legs out of bed, pulled on my boots, and made my way to the kitchen. The day before had been tiring, but it had been fun. I smiled as I thought of how peaceful it had felt spending time with friends and neighbors. Mara was already there, sitting by the window, her cup cradled in both hands. The light caught her face, soft and gold. "Morning," she said without turning. "Morning," I answered and poured myself a cup. I sat across from her, and for a moment, neither spoke. Just the sound of sipping and the faint creak of the porch boards outside as the wind stirred them. "You sleep okay?" she asked. "Yeah. First time in a while I didn't dream about McGregor, ravens, or gunfire." Mara glanced at me, eyes knowing. "It's different now." I nodded. "Yeah, it is." We sat in that quiet for a while, no rush between us, no weight pressing. Just two people who had fought their own ghosts and found each other on the other side. I looked around. The simple kitchen, the walls I'd helped fix, the dust dancing in the morning sun. I thought about the trail behind me, the blood, the years, the reckoning, and somehow it had all led here, to a quiet kitchen, to coffee with a woman who didn't try to fix me, just stayed near while I found my way back. I reached across the table and touched her hand. She didn't flinch, just looked at me like she'd been waiting for this moment all along. Then, setting her coffee cup on the table, she placed her other hand over mine, and for the first time in years, I felt it deep in my bones. I was home. A sound caught my attention, low, throaty, familiar. The raven. It had landed on the porch rail just outside the window, feathers glossy black against the morning light. It tilted its head, watching us through the glass. Then it called again, low and throaty. Mara turned, eyes wide. Neither of us spoke. The bird hopped twice, wings shifting. Then, as if satisfied, it gave one last call, sharp, echoing, and launched into the air. Its wings caught the wind, and the currents lifted it. Then gone, sailing east toward the ridgeline. I watched until it disappeared, and I knew I wouldn't see it again.